Hello, I'm David Ellenstein, Artistic Director at North Coast Repertory Theater. Thank you for joining us today for Theater Conversations. If you enjoy watching these, please click like, subscribe, and share. It's free to do, and it helps us get more visibility for these videos. Thank you. Hello, and thanks for joining us for Theater Conversations today. It is my pleasure to be joined by my friend, the wonderful actor, Hawthorne James. How you doing, Hawthorne?
Wunderbar. How about you?
Wunderbar. I guess I'm going to say that's how I am as well. Since you chose that word, I'm going to stick with it. I like it. So those of you that have viewed our filmed production of Necessary Sacrifices, you saw Hawthorne playing Frederick Douglass in that film, which turned out really well, and Hawthorne was awesome in it, playing that part. But I go back a long way with Hawthorne, back to 1989, when we did a production in Los Angeles together of a play called 1789, The French Revolution. But Hawthorne has had quite a career. He has had a great career in film. He was in the movie Speed. He was in The Five Heartbeats. He's done lots and lots of television and many other movies that you would all know. But he's a trained classical actor as well. So the first thing I want to talk to you about, Hawthorne, what made you go into show business? What made you want to be an actor and go into the theatrical world?
Well, that's kind of a sort of a long story, but to make it short, is I remember as a kid, being a kid from Chicago, I had older brothers and sisters who were extremely popular in school, but we all went to Catholic school. And then by the time I came along, being the fourth kid, the nuns were kind of tired of my family. So I'm trying to find my way, et cetera, et cetera. And Sister Aquanette did a kindergarten play every year. And I got on stage, and all I did was, the little thing that we did was I played a Native American. We were going around going, ooh, in a circle. And I was watching the other guys. And it was like, in my mind, I kept thinking to myself, I can do this better than anybody. I can do this better than anybody. Then when we actually did the performance, I realized that for the first time in my life, it felt like everybody was paying attention to me. Everybody was looking. And I think it started there. And then, I did a play or two in grade school. And then when I went to high school, Father Barry Schneider did one of two plays every year. He did either Raisin in the Sun or Hamlet. And I was a freshman, so I couldn't be in the play in Raisin in the Sun that year. But the next year, my sophomore year, we did Hamlet. And during rehearsals and stuff, I didn't get to play Hamlet. I was Bernardo in the first guard that opens the play. And as I was watching rehearsal, I'm thinking to myself, the senior who was playing Hamlet, I said, I know I could do this better than he could. In my mind, I kept thinking to myself, he doesn't know what he's doing. I can do this. But at the same time, so I got to be in the play. And several things happened. It's like apparently as a child, I mumbled and nobody could understand, it was hard for people to understand me. So my mother always told this story that she came to see the play, her and my grandmother. And her and my grandmother saw almost everything I did. They even flew to California to see plays I was in. But that support system was there. But when I opened my mouth and I said the first line of the play, my mother said, she leaned over to my grandmother and she said, is that James Herbert? Because finally, for the first time, they could understand me clearly. It's like when I got on that stage, I became a whole new person. And it's a whole world for me. Then on top of that, it's like Father Barry took that show on the road. And me being a kid from the South Side of Chicago, the only time I saw white people was the nuns, the priests, and the insurance man who came around once a month. And occasionally my grandparents would take us downtown. So those are the only white people we actually saw, other than what was on TV. But Father Barry took the show on the road. So we went to Minnesota, we went to Wisconsin, and we went through the state of Illinois, and we stayed in white people's houses. Now we had beans and greens, etc. Meat like once a week, maybe. Hot dogs and beans. These people at the houses that we stayed at had meat at every meal, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Their kids had their own rooms. We were sleeping 2 to 3 to a room. These huge houses. And my eyes at 16 years of age opened up and said, I want me a piece of this. because you see Ozzie and Harriet on TV, but that's fantasy. But this was reality for me. And then on top of that, when we moved out of Chicago, my last 2 years of high school, we moved to a little village in Michigan called Vandalia. And I went to high school in Cassopolis. And I did a play in Cass. And right before I went out on stage, a girl that I really kind of sort of liked came up and kissed me. So I went out on stage and I promptly forgot all my lines. It took me a few minutes to get my head back together. But to this day, as a superstition, I never allow a girl to kiss me before I go out on stage. But all those things is where, it sort of lent itself to getting to where I am. And then when I went to college, I had my bachelor's from Notre Dame, and I went through art, English, and music as majors. And I thought to myself, this is stupid. I know what I want. So I went into the theater department and never looked back. And then I got my master's from University of Michigan.
I was going to say, you went to Michigan and got your master's, right?
Right. And then after I had moved to LA, Ted Lange, who played the bartender in The Love Boat, got me a scholarship to go to London to study at the London Shakespeare Academy. And all those things. But it's so funny, David, because I never thought I could make a living. After I got my master's, I didn't know what I was going to do. But I wound up getting a job teaching at Illinois State University in their theater department. But none of the professors had ever done anything professionally. I mean, you're teaching kids how to be playwrights, you're teaching them how to be actors, et cetera, but you have never done it yourself. And I thought to myself, this is stupid. How can I be teaching kids how to do something professionally and I've never done it? And sure enough, I finally said, I'm going to go to LA, and it was either New York or LA, and for reasons I won't go into, I decided LA, besides a girl, once again a girl, because my girlfriend moved to LA first and I moved.
Always a girl, isn't it?
Yeah, always a girl. But
yeah.
But the thing about it is when I went to LA and I did a resume, I had a 4-page resume, had my picture and my resume, et cetera. And I gave it to another actor who had been out there for a while. And I said, what do you think about this? And he started laughing. And I said, what's the matter? I had a 4-page resume attached to my headshot. He said, it's only a page at the most, 1 page attached to your headshot. Casting directors can't read. So you're giving them 4 pages of what? What have you actually done? And, because of the fact that I had never done it professionally, I realized then right off the bat, I couldn't do the academia thing and teach people how to be professionals. I can't even do a headshot and a resume. So you had to like narrow it all down and distill it down to the 1 page that they needed, and then go and get some professional experience. Yeah.
You did. You've done a ton of plays in your life. Yeah. And you've done a ton of films and TV in your life.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? What do you think is the major difference between doing theater or doing film and TV, and what gives you more satisfaction?
Well, that's a good question, because of the fact that it all works for me. And they're the only difference is I had a teacher named Hal DeWint, and I was in a workshop with Bill Duke and several other actors. Oh God, so many actors that you would recognize to this day. We were all in the workshop. But me coming from that theatrical background, and we didn't have microphones. I learned how in a 1,500 seat house, how to project to the little old blind lady in the third balcony. So I was bigger than life. So Hal DeWint took me and he molded it. He taught me how to perform for the camera. And the only difference is you still make the same preparation as an actor, but it's a technique of how to bring it down for the camera, because you have to remember that the camera is right in your face and it picks up every little thing. So you have to, that's why I did 7, because I initially turned 7 down because it wasn't big enough a role for me. I said, no, I told my agent, I want to start getting bigger roles and stuff. And they came back and they said, oh, we want him, we'll give him more money and we'll put his name up front. And by the way, he'll be working with Morgan Freeman. Well, that was the kicker for me. I mean, more money, of course, and my name up front. Yeah, okay. I'm good with that. But working with Morgan Freeman, because he has something that I don't have to this day. He has stillness. And he portrays that power in his stillness. And I admittedly, I'm still working on that. But I saw him, I was able to watch him for several days up close and personal and watch that stillness, how powerful that stillness is on camera. Mm-hmm. That's the difference.
And that's what's something great about being an actor is you're always refining and perfecting. It's never done, is it?
No, never. I'm still getting better. And I never sit and rest on my laurels, et cetera, whatever you want to call it, because I love learning. I love getting better. It's like, I'm gonna go right to Necessary Sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because it's a play that was filmed, but it's not a play that was filmed. It actually is a film for me. It's one of the most powerful things, and I've told you this before. It is in my top 10 things I've ever done in my life, because number one, it is so well written. Number two, it is so impactful, and the words are so powerful. I, as an actor, don't always get a chance to do that type of work nowadays. It's a lot of the mundane, although I don't look at it as mundane. Don't get me wrong, because everything I do 100%. I put my heart and soul into everything. I don't care if I'm getting paid nothing or getting paid $10,000 for the day. It doesn't matter to me. It's my heart. If I give you my word, that's all that matters to me. I'm going to give you everything that I can give. But we don't get to do those things that really matter to the world a lot anymore. And Necessary Sacrifices mean something, because I look at, we've spoken about this. Frederick Douglass is saying the same things in 1863, 64 that we're saying today. We haven't advanced at all. We're still saying the same, we're trying to get to the same points that we were 150, 60 years ago. And it's so important. That work to me, I'm a little disappointed in the fact that the audience has not been widened in order to see that play. I think he wrote a hell of a play.
Richard Henderson.
That needs to be seen by a wider audience.
Even in my freedom, the songs of my bondage still followed me. They followed me from the given name of Bailey to the chosen name of Douglas. They followed me when I testified against slavery here and abroad. I am one who thinks the best friend of a nation is he who dares to tell his countrymen the truth, not don the popular garb of patriotism to excuse her sins. And so I strove to do with Abraham Lincoln. Mr. President.
Well. Good morning.
Your Excellency, my name is
Frederick Douglass. Yes, I have heard a great deal about you. But then, I imagine you've heard a thing or two about me, so we are even. It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Douglas.
Forgive me, but I don't have an appointment.
Oh, that's quite all right. Not many do, and you...
talk a little bit about tackling a role like Frederick Douglass, an iconic person who has, had tons written about them, and they're a historical figure of importance. Talk about trying to tackle playing somebody that was a real person as opposed to playing a fictitious character that an author has made up.
Well, it's funny that because I look at it as the same thing, because I don't know Frederick Douglass. I never met Frederick Douglass. He, to me, is a fictional, real person.
Yeah.
So you have to look at what is on that page, and that's what everything starts. It's what's on that page, and you've seen the pictures of Frederick Douglass. Until first time you and I did this. The first time we did it was 7 years ago. We did a reading of it at your theater.
Right.
So it was the first time that I recognized the fact that this is reality, that Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln actually really in real life met in the White House several times and outside of the White House. So but at the same time, you don't know who it is. Like, I played Malcolm X before, and I was alive when Malcolm X was alive. I didn't know him personally, but it's still
what did you play Malcolm X in?
I played in a play called The Meeting, which is a fictional meeting between Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
Okay.
So it was written, and I did the original production in LA, and that play has since gone on. Matter of fact, that's how I won't go into the whole story, but that's how Denzel got to play Malcolm X, because of the fact that my work in LA made the play so popular that it went worldwide. Because I wrote several of the lines in there, and through improv, etc. And Ruby D and Ossie Davis actually came to see the play, and it's so funny because during the rehearsal we were debating is Attalah's name Attala Shabazz or Attallah Shabazz, and so we came up with Attallah. We said, well, it must be Attallah. Well, after the play, I was talking to Ruby and Ozzy outside the theater, and they said, and by the way, her name is Attallah. So that's how I learned how to pronounce her name. But but playing those fictional characters, you still have to start with what's on the page, and then people came up to me and said, "You're not Malcolm, but you have you were able to embody his spirit." And that's what it is that you're going for. I don't know Frederick Douglass. I never met him, but I want to embody his spirit and his words, the impassioned words that he has to have said and to Lincoln. And I feel the same way. Those words that he says, it's like channeling through me anyway. But it has to start with that page. If you don't have the words on the page, you have nothing.
So do you have any roles or plays on your bucket list that you would like to do that like are things that, or do you just like take it as it comes and not worry about that?
I pretty much take it as it comes. What I can, and I'm gonna be honest, like I don't know any other way to be but honest. I really don't. I am particularly concerned with the roles for Black men, because because at this point in history, Black men have always, seems to me, in my opinion, have always gotten the short end of the stick. You talk about Black women, but Black women have been able to navigate because they're women. There's a fear of Black men in this country. It's like, take for instance, Georgia. Stacey Abrams has gotten all the credit and all the AKAs, et cetera, for delivering Georgia to Biden. You mean to tell me there's not one Black man that voted for Biden? There's this separation that we're not getting credit for doing what we do. And in today's world, Black men are constantly being pushed to the side. And there's something in this world that men are not being credited for. And I love, and let me get this straight now, because I love women. There's no doubt about it. But I got news for everybody. We're not the same. Men and women are different. And let us celebrate the difference. I don't understand women, but I love the hell out of them. They confuse the shit out of me, but I love them. And I don't ever want to think that men and women are the same. We're in a world now that's getting a little confusing to me, but I want to go back to Black men. I want to celebrate Black men because my father and my grandfather were the greatest men that I ever knew. And I never get to see them on stage. I never get to see them on screen. So that's my passion, is to make sure that I can play Black men as real men. I don't mind playing the bad guy now, but as long as there's a counterbalance to that. That's
are there plays out there that do that, or are there plays that still need to be written that do it the way you would want it to be done?
No, there are plays that need to be written, that need to be that I haven't, there have been some plays in the past that do that, but there are lots that need to be written because we're not monolithic. There are so many stories that need to be told.
Right.
And
I mean, August Wilson plays come to prominence, and they're great plays because he's a really great writer. But his slant is his slant, right? And there's all kinds of people.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I love August Wilson's poetry, but I can't do an August Wilson play. And there's a reason for that, is I do not allow that word to come out of my mouth. And his plays are full of it. So I can't do it. I can't change the word. I would never change Shakespeare's words. So why would I change August Wilson's words? There's a reason is I can't do it because I stopped using it in my 20s for a reason. So I can't do, as much as I love to do August Wilson, but his plays I can't do. So there has to be others. And see, there's a quick story. I wrote a play about two Black women who were sisters. And I wrote it back in the 90s. And it became very successful as a play at the Inner City Cultural Center. And so I decided, somebody mentioned, you should write the film. So I sat down and I wrote the film. As a matter of fact, you can see the film on YouTube. I got two films on YouTube, short films that I did. One's called Lisa Trotter. And the one that I'm talking about now is called Remember Me, with a question mark, about these two women who are sisters. And I wrote it with a Black man who plays the husband. The two sisters grew up very middle class, and they weren't allowed to do anything but be wild when they went up to the cabin that their parents had in the woods. So one takes her husband up there because he's lost his way as a doctor. He becomes a corporate, and she wants to get the relationship back on track and get him back to being a real doctor. And the other goes up, she has cancer, and she essentially goes up there to kill herself. And they get stuck in the cabin, and they have to deal with each other after 20 years of separation. And so I wrote the play, and I sent it to several studios. I think 20th Century Fox and Warner Brothers, I do believe, wanted to buy it. And they offered me close to $1 million. So it was like $999,000 to buy the screenplay. And they came back to me and they said, oh, by the way, can the women be white? I said, give my damn screenplay back. I'll kiss my butt. Because they couldn't believe that Black people were middle class and ambitious and upwardly mobile. So they had to be white. And I didn't write it for white people. I didn't write it for white women. I wrote it for two Black women to become stars. And that's the uphill battle that I've been facing all the time. Because people in charge don't necessarily understand who Black people are. And we're constantly fighting. And we don't have the power. We don't have the green light power to say, it's gotten a little better now, but let me go back to this. It's mostly about Black women. If you look at all the stuff, all the Black women are becoming CEOs. Where are the Black men that are becoming CEOs? And that's what when I talk about Black men, that's my focus. And that's the way it has to be for me.
Do you see any hope when you see like the Secretary of Defense is now a Black man for the first time ever, things like that, that is some kind of movement forward?
You know, honestly, I negate politics.
Okay. Let's,
Oh,
that's probably a good thing these days.
Yeah, because it's business as usual.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, it's not like, I've been on posts just today on Facebook, and I have SAG dropped the insurance, and I have been on Facebook. I've spent 20 hours at least minimum trying to get new insurance. I have been lied to. I have been misguided, and I just got a letter today talking about, well, we don't have your right address. I spent hours and hours, and yet the federal government can't get its act together to make sure that people in this country have health care.
Yeah.
And don't tell me that it's impossible, because Canada doesn't have the GDP. Sweden doesn't have the GDP. England doesn't have the GDP that this country has, nor any other of those countries that give their citizens health care.
Yeah.
So government to me is a sponsorship of wealthy people who want greed. It's just so when you talk about a Black man being secretary or whatever it is, it doesn't mean much to me, because he's going to follow the same corporate lines that have been followed throughout all of his, otherwise he'll get fired. So politics is a little different animal for me, Dave.
Well, it's great to talk to you, Hawthorne. We could do this for a couple hours, I know, but it's great for you to share this with our audience so they get to know you a little bit. And I look forward to our working together again and doing something that's meaningful and matters again.
Oh,
so
you asked me a question and I never answered it.
Go for it.
There's one role, and I'm not sure if I want to do it at all. There's one. I've spoken to you about this before. Petruchio.
Oh.
Yeah, there's something about it that I've always wanted to do, because that's one of the things when I was a kid in Chicago. My sister and I used to go to the movies together, and we always went to see Martin and Lewis, you know, those type of movies, etc. And one day we went downtown to see the movies, and on the left side was the popular movie theater that was playing some one of those comedies, and on the right there was I can't remember, the Woods Theater, I think it was, and it was playing Taming of the Shrew
with Richard Burton and Elizabeth Taylor.
And my sister said to me, "Which one do you want to see?" And God knows why, I said, "I want to see Taming of the Shrew." And I was in grade school.
Yeah.
And we went to see Taming of the Shrew, and I sat there and I watched it and I understood everything they said.
Wow.
I think that those things that influenced me in my life as an actor, and still to this day, I kind of sort of would like to do Petruchio. I'm not sure if I could do it now or not, but anyway, that's one that. Other than that, I'm open to really, really good stuff. Yeah.
Oh, we'll look for something. It's great to see you today, and I hope to see you soon in person. You know, hopefully this is going to lighten up a little more, and we'll all be able to get back together again.
Absolutely.
So you take care of yourself. Thank you for doing this and sharing who you are with our audience.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here. And David, we've known each other forever, apparently. So it's great to talk to you. And your brother, your younger brother, Peter, too.
My younger brother, Peter, who directed Necessary Sacrifices.
Yes.
Okay, take care of yourself.
Okay, all righty.
Be well.